Hey folks, it's Sammy Huber here with yet another exciting episode of Heroes of Autism. I'm here today to talk about autism and food, our relationship as adults with food, and to help explain why we're so particular about certain foods versus others. I'm here with Oki and how's his name?
Larrnell and Onikage. You can just call her Oni.
Oni. All right.
Yes.
And what these guys are about is they have their own blog, they have their own YouTube channel, and they talk a lot about today's topic. So before we dive into what you guys are about, can you tell the folks a bit about your backstories?
Okay. I'm Larrnell, and I'm here in Lutz, Florida, which is right around Tampa, here in the U.S. and all, like here in the U.S. And our show is the Autistic Delicatessen. So we have a podcast and a YouTube series. And my background is basically like I graduated from Connecticut School of Broadcasting, the South Florida location when it was in Davie and all that stuff. And I learned about TV and radio. I've interned at different radio stations, both public and commercial and all that stuff. So I've done podcasts in the past. I've been on internet radio with my past shows. And I used to have a show called Get Inoculated that was on the radio. And now I've been focusing more on the Autistic Delicatessen with my co-host Onikage. So yeah, and I've been autistic since I was a child. So yeah.
Okay, I'm Onikage. I'm also the co-host / editor of the Autistic Delicatessen. I also have a blog / podcast / YouTube called Autish, and I've been late diagnosed autistic at the age of 25. Long story short, that's basically me.
That's really cool, and that's something I found actually a lot on my show, that a lot of women on the spectrum get diagnosed in their 20s, where boys it's much more earlier. I mean, I got diagnosed at 14. And I've interviewed a lot of people in the UK, Scotland, Ireland area where it just seems like it's like this is a global thing where women are just kind of late to the game. But I'm glad to see you guys voicing, your voice out there, and it's so important for aspies like ourselves to be our own voice. So I'm very proud to meet you guys, and let's dive into the heart of what you guys do. When we started talking, it was about autism and food. So why are you guys so into talking about food?
I think like it's basically because like we both like food. And before, like, when I did my last project, it was just more about music and arts, poetry and storytelling. So I never thought that I was ever going to do anything like food or go this venture and all that stuff, because in the past, like, my mom and a friend I knew like said, like, oh, like, have you thought about doing a food blog and all that stuff? Because I would post food stuff on my Instagram and on my Facebook and all that type of stuff. When I go out to music events or food events or something like that, I always like post up the food and take pictures and all that stuff. So from that, I was thinking like, maybe I should do a podcast of how I already do and all that stuff. So then like, you know, just thought about doing that. And really, food is about community. It brings people together and all that stuff. So it's very interesting to hear the different stories within food. It's like talking to people in the arts or in music or in different fields, and you get a chance to learn about different cultural aspects, different spiritual aspects, and even people on the spectrum that some of them could be gamers, some of them could be like people growing gardens or something like that. So it's like every different aspect, food is always about community in those respects.
Yeah, that's really fascinating, man. Because like the huge thing about autistic people is watching them in my school and stuff is like, due to our very picky eaters that are out there, like we often don't get that community experience because we have to bring our own meals to restaurants like chicken nuggets or whatever, because we won't eat anything that the restaurant serves because it's not.
Oh yeah, I know that feeling. Yeah.
So my question to you: were you just like a big chicken nugget or a one food eater for a while, and then all of a sudden, bam! Oh, there are other foods out there besides chicken nuggets. Was that your experience
Well,
growing up?
well, for me, Sam, it was more of a thing where my parents put me on a special diet, so it was more of like when I go to restaurants, I would have to bring special type of mayo, which is mayonnaise, which is like a soy type of mayonnaise, and then like my own ketchup and all that stuff from the health food store, and then my own buns. Sometimes it would be a bagel, or sometimes, and then later on, it was more of like a sprouted wheat bun from the health food store, because I couldn't have the buns at the restaurant. Whenever we get hamburgers and all that stuff, I had to like take that off and put in a different one right there. So it's all about texture. And I was put on a special diet because, my behavioral imbalance, or, because back in the days, my parents looked at books to where like, okay, how can we get our child to, with the behavior, kind of like condense it and all that stuff. So
Mhm.
what I can relate with you, Sam, is that like I had to bring my own stuff. And even like with cafeteria food, like at school lunches, you
Mhm.
know, I brought my own lunch and all. So I never had like school lunch right there to where you have to pay for like the brownies or the square pizzas and all that stuff, and the so-called mystery meat or something like that. I don't know if that was the same when you were in school or public school or something like that, and where you live and all that stuff. But in Florida, it was just like that whole thing. So I always like brought my own lunches and brought like substitutes and that thing, like from my experience.
Mhm. Yeah, and I like that. Was my experience, and the students I've taught, I've heard many special diets for autistic children that it can minimize our behaviors. But and then also for me is was always about texture. For the longest time, like lettuce would taste like wet paper to me. I'm like,
Oh,
why am I gonna eat wet paper? And then
hmm.
my wife found this kind of lettuce that tasted really good, and all of a sudden I started to learn to trust lettuce and trust foods that were green. It was always about that texture. Same thing with tomatoes. Like she just found the right salad dressing, and all of a sudden I was able to this is recent eat tomatoes for the first time willingly.
Hmm.
Um, she's like, it's on your pizza. Why can't you have it in your salad? I'm like, good point. Um,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
you feel like your special diet that your parents put you on worked? Because I've never actually had to be able to have this conversation with someone who's put on an autism special diet. Did you find that it worked for you to be on that diet?
Well, like in some ways, like it helped some of the behavioral aspects. I remember like first, in the past, like I couldn't understand it and all that stuff, and I didn't like it. And I was sometimes would sneak sugars and all that stuff. Like right now, it's more about like I'm able to eat healthy foods and still have regular foods. It's more of a balance for me now, so it's not really so much strict like how it was in the past though and all that stuff. Because most of my food would come from like the health food store. I used to have more of like soy milk and soy products and all that stuff, like more healthier stuff. Because I would say like in some ways for that, it wouldn't have got me to try out different types of foods and all that type of stuff. Now, of course, like when I usually would eat dinner, I will always would have the salad first, and then I get to like the meat and all the other stuff. That's just how I do it. So because I just thought, okay, ever since I was a kid, have the salad first, then get to the other stuff. It was never like I have the meat first and then the salad last. So yeah.
Hmm. I get you that. Like save, use the other stuff as a reward for eating healthy first. Odie, what was your experience with food growing up? Were you on a special diet too, or what was your journey?
I wasn't in a particular special diet, but I did have like same foods. Especially in primary school, every lunch I used to have the same sandwich, which was Branston pickle, cheese, like the fake American cheese, and ham, and I had that every day. It wasn't until high school till I started like school lunches and then like pizza and that, and it was great. And for me, I like to eat mostly like pasta, bread, pizza, sushi, things like that. Um, but yeah, and also when it comes to food intolerance, well, not intolerances, but like sensory things, I cannot handle potato. Like chips, mashed potato, fries. Um, it's just very mushy and I can't handle it. Or sometimes if I do eat some foods and I'm not ready for it and it's got lots of flavour, it can taste amazing, but if it hits my mouth, it's like overwhelming and I have to eat like that for 5 minutes, otherwise I'm just going to be sick. I have to get adjust to the tastes, and it doesn't happen often, but when it does, it can be like the best thing ever. I'm like, hold on, all the flavors have hit me all at once. Ah.
Yeah, I've definitely been there with very rich tasting food, so I totally get on that. It's like it sounds like you should have to learn to really trust the rich tasting food, and I've definitely also done the whole like try to keep it in the mouth because my immediate reaction is just to spit it out because it's just too rich in flavor and it's overwhelming.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I totally
If worst
get.
comes to worst, it's good to. If worst comes to worst, it's always good to have like a bottle of water next to you, and if you can't spit it out, just drink water with it and gulp it, and it's gone. It's like oh, but it's gone.
Mhm.
Yes, yes, yeah. I remember like this is gonna be a funny, interesting thing, but I remember when I was younger, like my parents would have me like have like I don't know if you're familiar with this, Sam, like prune juice or anything like that, you know?
uh,
No, my parents did give me a lot of juice, and they tried to sneak things I wouldn't eat in there. But like, I have a very sensitive tongue. I would like always pick up like, wait a minute.
It's like it's
There's
kind of
mushroom in this.
yeah. But anyway, with the prune juice and all that stuff, I think it was supposed to like stuff to like help you with the bathroom and all that stuff. I remember when I
Yeah.
tasted it, it was just like, oh my gosh, it was like medicine juice. It does not taste good and awesome. I remember I had the Sunsweet prune juice. It's like, oh my gosh, you know. But it would get you to the bathroom though, and it was just like, oh, how could they make this stuff? Now, sun-dried prunes are very good. You know, whenever you try that, that's really good. But the juice
That's
itself is
fine.
just, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, like there are sorts of drinks out there. I know like there are these new shakes where I can hide the foods in it that I know are good for me, but I don't like texturally, so I can just gulp it down rather than having to go through that process of chewing it and like tasting it for like those seconds that drive me crazy sensory wise.
Hmm.
Uh,
Now, Sam, what do you think about like the green juice smoothies? Have you ever tried that?
I like making them myself in my fancy blender, and it's a way also I get a lot of healthy stuff really quick because I'm a very slow eater when it comes to green stuff. I'm still learning to trust healthy food, so like to have like a quick solution where I get all the goodies from the plant. I do like the juices, and I do love the way it makes my poop just flow on out.
Hmm.
Because I often get like little stomach issues because I eat too much bread or something, and then I just drink green juice and it comes right on out. And I
Ah.
know for a lot of people on the spectrum, digestive issues are a huge thing. Like I've had many students that go like a week or so without pooping, and if they would just drink the green juice, it would come, right out, and they'd be more comfortable.
Ah. Mm.
Oh, that fiber.
Yeah, that's a huge thing missing from a lot of Aspie's diet. Thing is like the secret is fiber. Uh,
Yeah,
and that,
I
I,
agree. But sometimes when I try and eat healthy, I have too much fiber, and that's a lot of fun.
Might as well bring a book to the bathroom with you when you eat too much fiber. Yeah. So the next big thing that I've noticed about food when it comes to food, again, it is a trust issue. It's not about we're just being like bratty children and not willing to eat different things. It's about the reason we eat the same. Like for me, I ate chicken nuggets because I knew every time my parents cooked it, it would taste the same every time. Um,
Ah.
and that for across the board as an autistic person, we love consistency. Like we know what to expect when we put that in our mouth or whatever it be. But for our topic, food. So my wife like really learned to like make the salad the same way each time. So like I know exactly what it's going into. And then
like putting like this like putting like the same stuff in it that you expect and all that stuff to where it's not just like, oh, this time we're gonna this time I'm gonna put some pineapples in there, or I'm gonna put some of these like special croutons. It's like, oh, what are you doing? You know, it's like, yeah.
so my question for both of you is, how do you develop trust with a new food? Like, you have a partner or you're at your parents' house, and all of a sudden there's this dish you've never seen before. How would you go about establishing trust with that food and be willing to eat it?
Well, nowadays I'm willing to try anything. But there was a time where I was definitely a lot more picky with my foods, and if it had a similar consistency to potato, I'd say no. If it had mushrooms, I'd say no. But my partner is good at hiding certain ingredients that I can't even taste it, and I'm like, ah. Or if potatoes in soup, but as long as it's not got that mashy texture, I can eat it because potatoes are good thickener for soup. but things like that, that's basically how it goes, I guess.
I remember in the past, like when I was younger, like in terms of juices, I would just have mostly like water and apricot juice because, the pineapple juice and the papaya juice, like from the health food store again, like I would have those. But the papaya was okay. And the pineapple, I really wasn't into. I was more into the apricot. So anytime we would go to the health food store to get other types of juices, outside of water, I would be like, just the apricot, because that was the best one. And I was like, just all about that. And I was fine. Like, hey, if that's the only juice, I'm good with that. And I think like over the years, I think it was a natural transition to have like different things like lemonades and different types of things and all stuff. Because I think it was all about, stuff that's healthy and all stuff, because I couldn't have regular drinks. I couldn't like go to a grocery store and simply just have like, oh, I can have that, because again, I had to be like, well, can't have that, or else like for certain cereals, it's like, oh, look at the nutrition facts, look at all that other stuff, if it has like VHT or any of that stuff in there, just don't have that. So my mom was very keen on that. So um but I think for that, the transition was more about wanting to try different things, and it helped out and all that stuff. So yeah.
What was your motivation to try new things? For me, it was I want to be healthy, and now being a father, I want my son to eat green things, so I know I'm his example. Um, for any young athletes out there that are like, why should I try new foods? Those chicken nuggets are all I ever will need. Like, what would you say to them? Like, no, like as you get older, your body is not going to be able to is going to need more nutrition as you get older because you don't have the same metabolism as a 5-year-old. How do what would be your advice to them to break that cycle of it's okay to branch out? What was your motivation?
Well, I would personally say that, basically just like try it out and see if you like it or not and all that stuff. And when it comes to health, I always say like I always tell people that there's many roads to health, like whether you're a vegan, vegetarian, or even like a person eating in portions like chicken along with your vegetables and all that type of stuff. So I see it as like try to find good alternatives and all that stuff. Like in terms of eating healthy, it doesn't have to be just salads and all that stuff, because nowadays when you go to the health food store, like Whole Foods or some a mom and pop health food store or some vegan or vegetarian restaurant, you can find some very good selections. And look, I'm not a vegetarian or a vegan, but I've been to those places in my area, and there have been some very good stuff. So I would just say like try out things that, for example, if you're a person that likes like chicken nuggets, try some vegan chicken nuggets and all that stuff. Take a little break from the regular chicken nuggets and try those and all that stuff, because you can always go back to those, but try those and all that stuff. And that's how you can open yourself up to different things and all that stuff, and even alternatives and all that stuff. Because look, I'm a person that I grew up on alternatives, so yeah.
I think you hit it right the nail on the head on helping people like us trust new foods is do something that's like a variation of the food you already trust. If you like really into salt and stuff, it will help pair your mind with positives with the new food. Like if I love barbecue sauce, so when I first started eating healthy things, I put barbecue sauce on it. Even though you shouldn't go on those things, but it wasn't about like, okay, this is bad or good. This is about developing trust, so I could slowly stop using barbecue sauce and everything and enjoy the fruit or vegetable on its own. And that's how my advice to a lot of people is like find a spice or a sauce or anything that you really like that you can put on everything, and then slowly pull back until you can enjoy the vegetable raw or with very minimal unhealthy things. Odie, what would be your advice to people that like? It sounds like you also growing up ate the same thing over and over for lunch. Like, what would be your advice to a young Audie if you could go back in time and be like, "There's more to life than just a sandwich."
Yeah. It's always good to try alternatives of things, as Larrnell said. Or if someone likes chicken nuggets, maybe try like the vegetarian versions and stuff, and to experiment with different textures in that way without being too much far out of your comfort zone. And also what you said, Sam, with the whole using like barbecue sauce and like veggies and that as a trust thing. I use sriracha sauce on my salads and stuff just to get that extra flavour, but also if I use it more often, try and use it less so I don't rely on it and actually taste the vegetables and texture and enjoy it. Some foods, like certain vegetables, I enjoy more so because of the texture rather than the taste, so I don't mind. But a lot of the time, I like to enjoy the taste, and sometimes it's nice to have an extra sauce. Condiments are good for veggies in general. You don't just have to use a vinaigrette dressing. Be more creative. Maybe make your own sauce, you know?
Your own sauce, yeah.
I like that, because another thing that has really helped me is also get more involved in cooking, not just having like a frozen deal you can just pop in the microwave. Like making stuff from scratch, like it really helps, like feeling the textures in my hands. And that's another way I develop trust with new foods is, watching my wife do it, talking to her about what she's putting in it, or even helping, or when I try to cook something myself, like get my hands, in the nitty gritty, can really help develop trust. I see how much of that food I'm putting into the dish. I know Audie's not much of a cook, but Lauren, do you cook your own meals now? And do you find getting your hands, in the green stuff, really helpful for you to enjoy the food better?
Well, I'm not really a cook, like I'm a person that I'm more of an eater and all that stuff, and appreciative of it. But I guess it's some basic stuff like because with salads, like I do like salads, and I do like put like usually when I eat salad, I usually put some cream, like usually Marie's blue cheese stuff you find at the store and all that stuff. If you ever been to Publix or Walmart, you find that stuff. Um, yeah, and also sometimes like croutons. I've been to some restaurants where there's croutons and all that stuff. But I think the biggest thing, like out of vegetables, I like is like the steamed vegetables. Steamed vegetables has been the one to where it's like, oh, I like that.
Mm.
And also certain times I would have carrots with like hummus and all that stuff, like the hummus, the Sabra hummus and all that stuff. It's really good if you want to try
Yeah.
that. So yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's good texture as well. Even though carrots are quite tough, it's just a nice thing to dip with. A good healthy snack, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. I'll definitely try that out and let you guys know how I like it.
Mhm.
In the beginning of this interview, you talked about how food is about community and like helping you connect with other people. And I've never really heard that when it comes to helping autistic people connect with other people. That it's usually shared interests, uh, like Doctor Who, and that's for me. If I hear someone quote Doctor Who, like I'll run my mouth for a while.
Yeah.
But the idea of like food coming together as I formed my own family and like everyone sitting down and talking and enjoying the food. How has food helped both of you connect with other people? Can you give me like a story that really comes to mind for of you that like, wow, like through eating paella with my partner or whatever, we're really connected.
For me, my partner cooks. He is the chef, and he shows me how to make things because I'm not a cook either. I just mainly make mac and cheese or basic sandwiches or frozen stuff, But basically, he does inspire me sometimes, and I want to attempt to make things. Not very often, but I do try. But there's moments. Some of my favorite moments is when he makes something and we're just sitting there and eating what he's made. Like the most recent example is cheap and cheerful burgers. Um, Unfortunately not homemade, but you have to cook them. They're not frozen or anything, and he just adds extra ingredients and seasoning. And it was just, it was just a nice experience and enjoying it. And we're just talking about the food and stuff because we both love food. Our appetites differ though. I can eat more than he can, but he is the cook, so he always gives me the bigger portions. But with the autistic delicatessen as well, we didn't realise how much the food and community thing would be an overall theme. Um, we've heard so many stories and different experiences especially from our guests, like certain businesses you get to meet with people, or if or one of our guests, the sauce boss, makes gumbo on stage and gives it to the audience, like marrying food and music together. A sense of community brings them together. Things like that. It's just amazing. Even just in small things with your partner making food and you just enjoy it, and even think, but if it's simple things like Christmas dinner and that with family and that, or friends, and just think it just shows how much food always brings people together in various wide different ways.
Hmm. Yeah, that's the thing though. And it's just, I think it's more about really, like you meeting different types of people. Because even when I go out to different types of events, like, just meeting people who are like, different mindsets or different spiritual, religious stuff, you tend to like have food with them and then just learn about their life, their culture and all that stuff. I went to the storytelling event at a Jewish synagogue in Boca, and we were there was different types of foods from different international cultures and all that stuff. And then talk to a rabbi, then talk to a Muslim, and we just had a conversation over food and just about life and just about their religion and all that stuff. And from that, it's interesting how many good conversations can come out of that, and you're eating different types of foods though. So yeah.
That's really cool, guys. And I'm glad you have experience. I'm sure that only you and your partner have funny stories. Remember that time we made that thing, and it really food really ties to our memory, like how we remember moments in our lives, and people would
It
get.
does.
Yeah.
Like certain smells can make me feel nostalgic, and especially food smells and that. And you smell certain smell, even if it's not exactly what you smelled before. You're like, oh, that reminds me of that time where I was on holiday and I ate that. Blah blah blah. It's
Yeah.
just a powerful thing, really.
And certain times, like smelling certain things, like reminds you of the region that you are and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like when I was, because I remember when I was at a family reunion in Brunswick, Georgia, like in the at Embassy Suites and all stuff in the lobby, when there's like some grits and some eggs and you know some corned beef hash and all that stuff that you smell, you think of like the South. You think of like, oh, that's like Southern food right there. So that's what it makes you think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you guys are hitting the nail on the head. That like food is really tied to community. Like if you go down south in America, the food's different than up here in Pennsylvania. Or if we flew over to Scotland, the food would be different. But we would eat that food in America. We think, oh, that time we visit Audie in Scotland, we would remember you and the good times we had. And I think that's also another way to develop trust. Associate new foods with
Yeah.
experiences, like the time, like if you're talking with your autistic child, like aren't we having so much fun, and like that it ties that food with something positive rather than the time daddy tried to shove kale down my throat, or whatever weird experience we've had with our parents trying to try new foods. I think that's really like super powerful. Like, and kudos to both of you for trying new foods and also trying to be healthy. And as autistic adults, how has trying to eat healthy like helped you regulate yourself with behavioral issues, with sensory issues? How does that help you stay grounded individuals by eating certain foods?
For me, since my partner cooks more often these past few years, our meals have been healthier. We do have our bad days on and off, takeaways and all that, because why not? In UK culture, have a takeaway. But he uses like fresh ingredients like vegetables and stuff, and he can make soups and things and use chicken or protein, and it's balanced. And I used to make like smoothies and that for myself, green smoothies and all that. But I usually eat a banana almost every morning, or have porridge, and it helps. One thing I have noticed, it does help my mood. Just makes me more awake, more noticeable, more noticed, aware and things. Just depending on the day, really. But it also helps my digestive system as well, because I do have issues with that on and off sometimes, especially in my childhood. It was pretty bad. Nowadays, not as much, but I've only started drinking coffee a lot more just to aid it a wee bit. But I usually drink tea because I love tea so much, one of my special interests, and I'm also a tea blogger, so.
Very
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah. Oh, for me. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Real quick, Sam, have you ever heard of porridge or anything? Like,
Yes,
that's
I've heard of porridge, and I have eaten it in the past. So, how's porridge help you regulate yourself?
like, well, I just said that because here in America, it's like oatmeal or something like that. So, anyway, for me, like, I guess it's helped me have more of a better appreciation of healthier foods because I think that if I wouldn't have had the special diet when I was younger, I don't think I would have ever tried like vegan or vegetarian type stuff. I would have just like, stuck with the meat and then tried to like eat the salad faster. I probably would have just stuck to the basic thing of that, but not really want to like try out stuff that's very healthy and all that stuff. Or even like steamed vegetables. I would be like no to that. It'd be like no, no, I don't want that. You know, because when you expose yourself to other good things, then it helps you expand your palate. Because again, like there's some people that are just full on meat eaters and then not really want to like try other things
Right.
which they should. And plus, it's good to be healthy. It's good to have a balance and all that stuff because you don't have to be only a vegan or vegetarian. You can also be a person, again, like I mentioned earlier about portions, because at the end of the day, it's also good for your health, even if you're on the spectrum too as well. It's like, it doesn't have to be just sensory. It can be also like for health basis and for energy basis too as well.
Yeah, exactly. 'Cause
Definitely.
yeah, because just because we're on the spectrum, the three of us, doesn't mean we're not human. Our bodies react to the food the same way as anyone else. Ultimately, that eating fruits and vegetables keeps us alive longer and makes us happier. It helps us poop better. It helps us live life better. And I find myself with more energy. And even though like chicken nuggets were such a big part of my diet, they made me lethargic when I just ate that all day. I didn't have energy. But once I started eating healthy things and got the green juices mixed in and all that, kombucha is a big one for me. That's very grounding. And then I found mushrooms. Like mushrooms are the big vegetable for me because they get me very grounded. And also the texture of mushrooms, as you
Mm.
both may know, it feels like meat. And,
Yeah.
Yeah. And
and
and also just to cut in there, Sam, like I actually had like kombucha, like I remember the first time I had kombucha was actually at the Tampa Bay Veg Fest, and they had a stand to where they had orange turmeric kombucha. And of course, like there's the fizz part you gotta get past though, but otherwise in that there's a good texture and a good taste to it, like once you really get used to it though.
yeah, definitely. And it's a good replacement for soda. Like I used to be such a big soda drinker, but now like kombucha is like this has the fizziness that I like on my tongue. And it's
Yeah.
finding those healthy alternatives like we've been talking throughout this video. As we're gonna wrap up our conversation, can you tell the folks a bit about what you both do online now and how people can find you and learn more about what you guys are doing in helping our community love food?
Yeah. I'll start. As I've got multiple things, I'll let Larnell say the link detail for the Autistic Delicatessen. For myself, besides the Autistic Delicatessen, I run a blog called Autish. It's also a YouTube and a podcast called the Autish Podcast. And if you want to find all things Autish, the website is autish.card.co, CARRD. I'm also a tea blogger, as I mentioned earlier. It's called Land of Infusion, and I just review all teas and infusions. It's like a special interest of mine. And that is landofinfusion.wordpress.com. That's what I basically do online other than the Autistic Delicatessen, so feel free to check them out. Larnell?
And for the Autistic Delicatessen, you can check out our YouTube and podcast page at the autisticdelicatessen.card.co, which is CARRD.co. And you can find like both of those sites. Like definitely subscribe to our YouTube page, and also to yeah, like subscribe there, and then also check out my past Get Inoculated shows.
All right. Excellent, guys. Check out their shows. Subscribe. Please subscribe to Heroes of Autism through Sammy Huber on YouTube, Sammy Huber on Facebook, Huber Family Adventures on Instagram. Guys, thank you so much for coming on my show. I'm about to be timed out here on Zoom. It was such a pleasure meeting you. Let's talk again, because I think there's so many more things we can learn from each other about food. Folks, thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe after watching this video. Thank you guys so much for coming on today. Let's talk again soon.
Yeah, no worries. It was great. It was great being here.